Live. Everybody, we're back. This is our final panel of the day. I'm super excited to have a very special guest with us in the metaverse and a part of Crypto BASEL. You know him as SUTU Eats Flies everywhere online. If you've seen one of his VR movies, maybe you've even been to the movies before COVID and you've seen Ready Player One or Doctor Strange, Doctor Strangelove, Doctor Strange. Dr. Strangelove. Dr. Strange.
Strangelove. Dr. Strange. I would have been happy to work on Strangelove. Yeah, that would have been pretty awesome.
In other like Marvel and DC movies, you've definitely seen the work of SUTU. He's a buddy of mine. I love his work. I think he's quite brilliant and also a very rad human being. It is my honor and true pleasure to be at Crypto BASEL with SUTU, and of course, my illustrious co-host, Coldy. What's up, guys?
Hello.
Hello. So, how do I copy? I'm just copying this streaming link, and I'll just share it to anyone on Twitter that might be interested. One sec.
Yeah, and I
I'm
think
doing the same right now.
Yeah, blasting it out there with your digital asset. Show us your T-shirt when you finish blasting the link out. Is that some Hirajima?
Yeah, it's Sorayama. This fantastic Japanese artist from the 80s who's famous for painting these.
Is one of your favorites?
Looking robots. Yeah.
Looking good. Your glasses don't seem to have the reflection. Like mine have the reflection. It really messes me up when I look over and I see myself with all this blue, like, you know.
You got to spend the big bucks.
These are meant to be.
Don't go cheap with your eyes. You only got one pair for now, anyway.
You know what? On that tip, let me just take off my cheap ass glasses. And these are a gift from my brother. So he's got very fine taste. I will assure you these were not cheap. They're meant to be for looking at the screen, but maybe it's because it's darker in your house. Should it like cover up the sunshine? I don't know.
It's your monitor.
All right, I think we're good to go. So should we kick it off?
Yeah, let's kick it off. SUTU, how the heck are you, buddy? We got you out of Australia just in the nick of time to get to the States and be in lockdown under COVID. How you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's been a bit of an interesting year. It's funny because I was in like such a remote location in Australia, in northern Western Australia. And then, and you know, part of the motivation for moving to Los Angeles was to leave this town of 1,000 people and, you know, have access to this big bad community of LA where all the excitement is happening. And then I've literally been locked down the entire year and seen like 5 people. So, I mean, when I first got here, I was like, I remember when we met up last time I was in LA, Phoenix, and we went to Wisdome and we was checking out that Android Jones show and stuff. And that was exciting. And I said to you at that time, I should definitely do something here when I get to LA. And literally on the day that I arrived to LA, I had a gig lined up where I was doing live VR painting at Wisdome, and it was projected on the inside of the big dome there. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, this is an awesome start to my new adventure in LA. And then like literally 2 months later, it was just full global pandemic. So yeah, wasn't the plan that I had. Wasn't the plan that I had planned.
This wasn't on your vision board?
Yeah, it wasn't, but like, you know, I think with any of these kind of crises, you've got to have that that perspective of to try to sort of take advantage of the moment. So it was good. The last 6 months has been awesome for, you know, focusing on developing some skills and stuff like that and trying out some new things and not having the pressure of trying to be present at all of these events and stuff that are going on. And like I went like because like shortly after I arrived also we had Sundance Film Festival and we had our underwater VR film launching there. And so that was like another big exciting moment. But then I got incredibly sick afterwards, which to this day, not sure, but it could have been COVID because I got like pleurisy on my left lung, which I'd never had before. And that was creating crazy problems breathing. And then like a couple of months after Sundance, they were saying that Sundance was a hotspot for COVID. It was one of the very first hotspots because you had all of these international guests coming in there. So the Hollywood Reporter dropped that story. And then 2 other members of my team got sick with COVID. One from Paris, and he was sick as a dog in Paris. So I'm thinking that probably might have been what happened.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I'm always like, because I'm usually traveling around and I'm so exhausted and my immune system's down. So I was like, oh, this is just how it rolls. I usually get the flu or something from these events because, you're sharing fucking VR headsets and shit. And it's just a goddamn germ fest anyway. So yeah, I feel like that probably could have happened. But anyway, that was kind of like the last public sort of event that I did in person. And then it was full lockdown and actually like it was like that I run the company iJack with my buddy Lucas out of Australia, and yeah, we actually focus a lot on physical events. So we create like a physical event, like the project that I did with you at MOAD, where we'll have art in the museum or at a physical place, and you go there and you activate it all. So it's all, created and curated with the local people, with the local artists. We provide our technology, or sometimes we provide assistance with our animators, providing the AR animated content, collaborating with local artists and stuff like that. So we had a whole slate of events lined up for this year as well. And then just like as pandemic hit one by one, they started to sort of unravel. And then as a company, we were like, oh, crazy, this is going to last a while. We need to pivot. So when we also use that downtime to like just invest in, like we launched like lots of web AR stuff, in-home AR activations, stuff that you could activate from your house. You didn't need to go to any places. And so we had to kind of repackage our services to the companies that we're already working with, and then also find other clients that were trying to figure out how to reach people at their homes that were afraid to leave the house all of a sudden and stuff like that. So it's funny how these circumstances kind of like, depends on how you look at it, if they can kind of cause you to innovate and stuff like that. I think it's really healthy to adopt that mindset as a creative person. I feel like artists especially are trained to be like that anyway. Like we are resourceful people, we need to be able to navigate the times as they change and stuff like that. So I have confidence in our artist community that of the people in this moment that they will be able to adapt. And if they are lacking that confidence, that just to know that we've been training for these moments our whole lives, because that shit doesn't ever really go to plan. And we always have to pivot and find a new direction and stuff. So I think that's important to remember, that we have it in us to do that.
I remember when it all got locked down, and I'm an art director in an office. I got to go in every day, and they told me I had to work from home, and I couldn't come into the office or drive. I was like, man, this is like fucking awesome. Like I can actually stay at home and do what I want and like get my work done. And like you said, being a resourceful artist I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise for some of us. I used to go out a lot and be social and spend my nights, hanging out with small talk and stuff I might not have really wanted to do. But now I had this time to create and create and create. And it's those blessings in disguises. I think COVID might have brought some of this.
Yeah, I think, but it's also, you made that choice that you were going to make the most of this time.
Sure.
I think that's super important. But yeah, like obviously we're here to talk about sort of this new sort of crypto art scene as well, and kind of what that means in these times and in this kind of space, like for digital artists and as digital artists. yeah, I've been watching this kind of thing grow over the last year as I've seen other fellow artists kind of get involved. This project that I'm just about to drop will be my first sort of NFT crypto art piece. And it was kind of one of those moments where my friends at Emanate down in Australia, they reached out to me and they were like, oh, would you be interested to create artwork for Deadmau5? And we'll drop it as an NFT on Super Rare. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a good opportunity for me to finally, I needed that little push because I've been pretty busy with all my other stuff. So I was like, yeah, no, this sounds like an awesome way to push me and motivate me to check this scene out properly. And then since that idea hatched and been chatting to Phoenix and yourself, Goldie, about, and also seeing you following along with the crypto art week that you guys had a couple of weeks back, I was it was kind of cool to start to think about what that actually means for digital artists. I think like one of the biggest challenges over the last decade and a half of my career, you know, as a digital artist, starting off creating like interactive web comics and stuff like that, has been trying to capture the value of digital art. So people are, it's been a really strange journey. Like the web stuff really didn't pay for itself. It was like a labor of love. And then the Apple sort of ecosystem came out with the ability to release apps and stuff. But obviously Apple just took a big cut and they made it really difficult to put the apps up there. And then when your apps are actually up there, it's really hard for people to find them, and you end up having to spend more money on creating visibility for yourself and stuff like that. So a lot of my app stuff didn't really pay for itself too well. And then one of the interesting things that did pay for itself was my Modern Polaxis augmented reality comic book, which is this one. I just saw it there, had it handy. But this is a physical printed comic book, but then I designed an app, and when you hold the app over the pages, you see it come to life with animation and sound design. And, you know, it's the story of a paranoid time traveler. And the comic is laid out like his private diary. So all his little notes are in there, but what you realize when you're looking at it through the app is that he's actually hiding his secret notes, and it's telling you a second story. Like the layer of AR is used to tell you another layer of narrative, and you use the phone almost like a magnifying glass to inspect those details and discover that second story. But that as a concept was the first AR comic at the time in the world. And so it got a lot of buzz and a lot of hype. And it was also when Kickstarter was kind of pretty popular. So Kickstarter was where these, you know, obviously people can support projects and you can connect directly to a community of collectors, you know. And so the project was funded with the support of those collectors and fans of my work via Kickstarter. And, you know, that project paid for itself. And I went on to obviously print out more copies of it. And I've taken it to Comic Cons and stuff like that, and then sold more. And yeah, it's been back and reprinted about 3 times now. So I think that the point of that story, though, is that was kind of like a hybrid project. It was a physical thing that was connected to a digital asset. And I thought that it sort of at the time it said it was a lot easier, I realized, for people to hand over $20 for a book than like $20 for an app. And I've spent a lot of time making apps and stuff in the past, and even getting like $3 for an app, people are like, yeah, $3 though. It's like, fuck, are you kidding me? It's like the price of a coffee, which you buy every single day. This is crazy. And I was like, oh man, I do not want to have this argument about the value of all this work that we put into this digital product. So it's been, you know, it's been very motivating and inspiring to see the response of like the crypto art community that are getting behind and supporting these artists and putting down some currency on their works. And I know like my friend Trav, Giant Swan, in back in Melbourne there. He's been one of the people I've been chatting to quite a lot about this whole scene, and just kind of I've been checking in with him every couple of months. Oh, how's it going for you now? How's it going for you now? But what it's also done is really helped him to focus on his work and thinking a lot more about the delivery of each artwork and kind of what the message of that artwork is, and writing those descriptions. And I think having that kind of deliverable, like I'm going to put it up on the platform, I want to maintain this professional flow of my work and representation of my work, that it's the same approach that you might have if you're showing your work in a gallery. You're going to make sure that you're going through the full polish of it to make sure it looks as best as it can. And then if you're not, and you're just slapping up any artwork onto those platforms, you're kind of exhausting that market, and people will see that it's not your all. And you're not really doing yourself a favor there. So I think I feel like this scene is still in its infancy, and people are sort of discovering that, and the platforms themselves will also play a role that the galleries have played in the past in more of a traditional sense, in the way that they help to curate that marketplace that they are representing. So yeah, it would be cool. I mean, I'm always interested just to follow along on these kinds of things and sort of see how they evolve. But for sure, right now it's exciting to see all the enthusiasm there for it.
You said a lot. I wanted you to stop when you were talking about your comic book, because I don't think that, I feel like we need a demo. That's actually one of my favorite artworks that you have. I love that comic book so much, and for me it's worth more than whatever, $20, because isn't this the like 10th anniversary, and after 2020 that character technically dies in the book. So
no, that's my first one that I did, which was Noel,
okay.
which was the web comic.
Thank God.
Yeah. Well, like
I love this so much.
Okay, but still, Knowles is also,
it's awesome. I mean, it's a classic. I'm not taking it away.
This is actually really, it's good that you bring it up though, because okay, as of December, I don't know exactly, I haven't actually bothered to check Chrome, but they're stopped supporting the Flash technology in browsers. So my first big personal project, which is called Knowles, which I fucking put years of my life into, it is absolutely absurd. Like, I've got my drawings, which are on rolls of paper, and I can literally roll them out to 200 meters of paper, like so many drawings. And this project is 24 episodes, all illustrated, written, and colored, and animated by me, and it exists on the website knowles.com, NAWLZ.com. And this year, in this December, that technology that supports that whole story experience comes to an end. So there will be no more. And it raises in which case there will be no more of that particular project. And for a long time, I've had to come to grips with this kind of this problem of like the digital world, in that it has a shelf life. And I previously had worked with theater artists and stuff, and I managed to kind of, I don't know, reconcile my feelings about it by comparing it to like a stage show. Like, you only can show the stage show when you have the actors, and as soon as you don't have the actors, then your show can't exist. So in this case, the technology is one of those key actors for my story to be told on that platform. It could be the case that we develop an emulator that allows us to show Flash games or Flash stories, because the last 20 years has seen incredible amounts of projects that have used Flash to tell a story and to show art. So it would be a damn shame for our history of the sort of digital world, and for just for the archive of all of these incredible creators and the stories that they've told, for that all to be lost. So there has been some efforts by members of this community which is a broad community reaching over the waters. Like I've got friends over in Amsterdam who are professors and a part of like screen institutions and stuff that are trying to pitch these sort of legacy ideas to places like MIT to provide some sort of ecosystem that doesn't need to be updated with all the security of every single browser update that comes out, or whatever the situation is as technology progresses, just so that these things can be archived. But right now, that isn't the case, and nulls will die until I or somebody else does something about it. And that's just how it is.
What about, you know, in the meantime, until MIT or, you know, the, it's the Electronic Library that's here in San Francisco. I want to get their name right. But I feel
the
like
Internet Archive or something like that.
Yeah, it's the Internet Archive and then like the Electronic Free something. But yeah, they're actually connected with the Internet Archive. It feels like this would be something they would want to take on, you know, as a legacy project, because you're right, it's gravely important. We lose so much culture and history and data, cultural data, because of the loss of Flash. But I'm also wondering if like platforms like Netflix or Hulu might have a responsibility for certain important like digital media to maybe take that on and to have it live on in another in another form, the way a silkworm moves into a butterfly, but it's essentially still the same
Well,
being.
I think in the context of this like conversation about the whole crypto art thing, I do feel like it will be the owners of the platforms that are showing these artworks. Like at the moment, there's like Super Rare is showing MP4s and JPEGs, right? You know, when the MP4 format goes obsolete in 5 years or less, or however long it takes, you know, those guys would need to create a container to show those MP4 works. And it's on them as a gallery to be able to do that, because the whole marketplace depends on it. Because otherwise, if your artwork can't exist, then, you know, where is the value in it? You know, but we're selling these works and people want to be able to hold on to them. So I think that's really a conversation that will come up at some point. And it's definitely, artists can put pressure on these platforms to make sure that they're doing it. And the platforms should definitely start thinking about it. Are they in for the long term? You know, do they want to see that this community of collecting digital art is here to stay, and that it can actually stay? You know, or do we just go and start carving our artwork on rocks? So,
what do you think the responsibility is to the artists, though, to make sure that their works can be, legacy works, so that we are working in concert with the platforms and or collectors? I see this as definitely a platform issue, but also a community issue, in that the artists have to decide for themselves as well. That look.
Well, also it's a responsibility to your buyers. You know, how do they see the artwork in 10 years from now or whatever? So I think, yeah, I'm sure, like, you know, if you're sending your buyer a 4K MP4 file after the sale's gone through on Super Rare or whatever like that, then, you know, the buyer themselves can just keep up to date with whatever technology they need to be able to view the work. And maybe that's enough, like maybe that's fine. Or maybe it's just good for everyone to go, oh, okay, so yeah, there's a new piece of software that you can download from here, and that will let you view your artwork again whenever you like. So that's definitely something that will come up and somewhere down the track. But I love that as a thought experiment. You know, how far into the future are we thinking with all of this stuff? And whilst it's very sort of hype right now and novel, I always am thinking carefully of what and how I invest my time in my projects that I do and stuff like that. So I like to bring these points up just to make sure that some other people are thinking about it as well, so it's worthwhile for everyone.
Absolutely, and thanks for bringing it up. I think it's also maybe the responsibility of museums, right, to be thinking of this and making sure that the idea of viewership is something that goes beyond, their 5-year plan or even 10-year plan, that they're thinking, well, 20 years from now, how will this media be viewed? And should we be investing our endowment funds or a portion of our endowment funds into technologies that will allow these works to have a legacy and actually have a life?
Yeah, and I mean, like right now, these platforms like Super Rare and Known Origin and the rest of them are playing the role of like an online museum in many sense. And it will be interesting when the MoMAs and LACMAs of the world decide to get involved in this and create like a platform to auction off digital works that are in their collections. Like I haven't seen that yet, or maybe you've seen some sort of equivalent of it. But yeah, I suppose that's coming too, and they're probably watching these markets right now to sort of get an idea of how they should approach it, because they're going to have to come in at some point, especially as we start to really cover the world with a digital layer. Like I literally got an email yesterday about doing a project, an AR project for LACMA. And I was like thinking, how is that going to be preserved in their collection as well down the track, as AR technology is constantly evolving and stuff, and works that we create even a couple of years back have to be updated and to work with the current systems and stuff. Like, and that place is even like that technology is evolving even faster than like the web stuff. The fact that my North comic is now 10 years old and only now it's about to completely break just blows my mind. Like I thought it would have fucking broken 5 years ago at least, but it's credible that it's even lasted this long. Whereas like my Modern Polaxis comic, which is only 5 years old, this one died after 3 years, and I had to port all the content to a new platform in order to keep playing it and in order to make it still accessible to the people that bought my book. So I had originally released a Modern Polaxis app, and then I ported everything over to my iJack app, which is my AR company. And the reason I did that is because I knew that I would be maintaining my iJack app because it supports so many other projects. So whereas I didn't want to maintain 2 apps, so I told everyone that bought this book to go over and download the iJack app. But yeah, another thing we was going to talk about was like the audio reactivity and stuff like that.
Yeah, but before we get there, like this other stuff that you're doing is not way more interesting, but it's really interesting to think about. I mean, these are important things. Essentially, this preservation issue represents people's careers, people's actual legacy. And if we're talking about artists specifically within the NFT ecosystem, being able to, get rewarded for their work or, get royalties from their work in the second and tertiary markets. Well, if these collectors now don't see a way of being able to actually preserve, play, interact, whatever with the work, then, you're right in what you said earlier. Does it compromise in this moment? Is it already compromised 3 years, 5 years from now, if and when that technology gives out and switches and it can't make the leap, right, to the new player or the new form of viewing, interacting with the work?
Yeah, I think for now, like we're pretty safe with like a video format, like a digital video format for a fair while. But I'm really interested in actually some of the more innovative, experimental, digital interactive formats. Like I would love to see, people like Zach Lieberman who do these crazy sort of interactive open frameworks projects and stuff like that. And, sometimes for web or sometimes for mobile AR, what platform's going to allow him to sell those as the NFT? That would be cool. And then as a buyer, I was like, I'd personally be interested in investing in like one of his artworks. That would be wild. And yeah, like I would also like to be able to show it to everyone every now and again, and a couple of years down the track sort of thing. But at the moment, I don't know. I haven't seen any signs of these kind of more alternative formats being represented on some of the platforms. But I'm sure it's in the post. Like people are thinking about that, because those creators are really up there with some sort of the most cutting edge, innovative sort of creators that we have in our community. So definitely need to find ways to encourage that, I think. And the same with augmented reality. Like obviously I'm running iJack, and we thought about introducing sort of a way to allow artists to sell their work through the iJack platform, and then we would provide that ongoing hosting for them. You know, I can't, like, you know, some of the biggest AR platforms right now are like Facebook, and I just can't imagine Facebook having that kind of interest for their artists right now or anytime soon. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, just like historically, they just haven't given a shit. So I can't see their position on it changing anytime soon. Snapchat look to have been making a bit more of an effort to support artists and profile artists, and right now they're offering like artists up to $1 million for posts that they think will get a lot of traffic and go quite viral, which is pretty awesome that artists could get paid for creating content. So I know a few artists like Ines Alpha from Belgium, who's creating these wonderful AR makeup.
Yeah, awesome. We love her. Shout out to Ines Alpha.
Yeah, and yeah, and you know, it's crazy to think that her creations have been downloaded and slapped onto the faces of hundreds of thousands of people around the world, also up into the millions. So like digital, like, you know, enthusiasts of her work, or people that just stumble across it via the Snapchat platform because it starts going viral or whatever, they're engaging in her digital artwork on massive numbers. And I think that kind of exposure to art is pretty awesome for any kind of indie creator. It's good when the platforms are working for you in that sense, but at the moment there is no sort of, she's not really making money from all those views. So I think it'll be interesting to see where Snap goes with this kind of payback that they've been talking about when you sort of get X amount of traffic and stuff like that. It's basically a royalty for your making everyone engage in their app and platform.
How does that royalty work? Is it literally based on views? Is it based on shares?
I don't know. I was just reading about it. Like the Creators Week is actually on right now as well. And I just saw the email. I'm signed up and I'm supposed to be going there, and I forgot about it. But that's where I will find out how that works. But they were just pitching it in this with the promotion of the online festival this week. So I need to find out some more info about it.
Is that open to everyone, or is that an invite only for Snap creators?
I think there's two sections to it. There's an invite only for Snap creators, like, are verified on the platform, and then there's like a more public one, and they're showcasing those Snap creators' works and stuff like that. But yeah, like I actually haven't had time to read the email properly. So
I was just wondering if people wanted to reference it later, what you everything you're saying, because we were having a discussion with someone from BMG and your pals at Emanate, and we were talking about TikTok creators and other creators on the platform being able to be rewarded with some type of royalty for the for creating and bringing that platform massive amount of value through views and likes and attention, essentially. And so just kind of it's something that's buzzing about, especially with TikTok. So just wondering like what people are up to, what the conversations are, what people are thinking, how they're formulating the thought, and if it has any future sort of like forward frameworks around it, rather than the right now, you know, smash and grab on the attention and run off with the money kind of vibes.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, there's models there. There's been models there for a while with YouTube, especially people getting, you know, a micro payment for views, and that payment going up when you reach certain thresholds. There's definitely models there for all of these new platforms to base them on. And I think, you know, you hear when a popular artist decides that, you know, there's always this story when a popular artist decides to fuck that platform off and go to another one because that other one is offering them a better deal. So this is where we start to get into the standards. It's like when a basketball player leaves one team for another because they're being offered a better deal. It starts to create a better, broader sense of the value of that player, which then raises the whole standards for the whole industry of what a player is worth at that moment in the league. And you see it with like e-games and stuff. My studio here in LA was shared, not that I've been in there for months, but it's shared with like a esports team called Deadmau5. And you know, these guys get insane amounts of traffic on their Twitch channels and stuff like that. Like, it's just ridiculous. And these are some of the best players at League of Legends or whatever game they're playing, Call of Duty and stuff like that. And they get product endorsements and all kinds of shit thrown at them, from like healthy food that gets sent to your house because you're never leaving your computer or whatever the situation is, or comfy chairs and stuff like that. All kinds of product endorsements, but they're literally athletes, you know, digital athletes, esports athletes. And it was interesting talking to the founder of that Deadmau5 team just about his whole perspective on kind of letting the industry see the value of their players, and really putting a lot of pressure on the industries and making those endorsement deals and stuff like that to get these young people paid. And I was like, it was really on another level. Like, I was like, oh, we really don't have those kind of people out there batting for the digital artists right now that I can see. Like, I don't really like, but I mean, I'm not really like a business head kind of person. It's just not where I'm at personally, or what I'm invested in. But I definitely would love to see more artists getting paid and appreciated for their work, for sure. So it's interesting just to have some perspective on that. You know, these there is models where people are finding a way in these different digital spaces. I think actually when I was talking to you a couple of weeks back, Phoenix, I was saying how one of my first sort of digital client works was like, I had to design a billboard that was going to be shown inside a video game, and this was literally like 19 years ago or something like that. Yeah. And at the time I was like, oh, this is such a trip. You know, it's a virtual thing, and it's traffic. The people that it was like on the side of a fucking car racing game on the side of the track, and all these cars are going to go past this billboard or whatever. And it was promoting some digital thing that you can buy. And at that time, eBay had created a branch where you could start to buy virtual items for your games. And so suddenly, like, virtual things had value in the physical world, where people were actually paying real money to buy virtual items to give them a leg up inside the game worlds. Like, you could spend a whole year building up your character, or you could just go and buy the big fancy crazy weapon on eBay that will get you to that same result, and you don't have to put in that year of like hard labor tapping away on your controller or whatever. And when I was researching this, and I was researching this because at the time I was working on my Knowles comic, which is like a cyberpunk comic series, which taps into all of these kinds of details. One of the craziest stories that I heard was about this young Chinese game player, and he went home and realized his whole inventory was gone. It had been cleaned out. And then he found out that his best friend had logged into his account and went and sold all that shit on eBay. and he was freaking out. Then he went to the police station and reported theft. And the police, this was the first time in China's history that a virtual theft had been reported. So it was like a big kind of headline at the time. And the police just laughed him off. And then the reason that it blew international attention was that kid then went and killed his friend because he was just completely lost his mind over the whole.
All his money. I mean,
it stole his whole life. It was like his house had been broken into and just cleaned out. You know, everything that he invested in was completely wiped out. And so it was one of those arguments. It was really sparked that whole debate of, you know, how real sort of a digital asset is to us in our lives, what it means to us on a personal level. And so I bring that story up just as we start to kind of really consider the value of digital art and the role that digital art can play in our lives. You know, it's, I'm not promoting that people should go kill one another if their digital art gets stolen, but just know that, you know, it's good that it's good to be able to love these works that you collect and stuff like that. And yeah, we can form attachment with these things. It happens. It becomes a part of our life. And I also feel like as we spend more time in virtual worlds and start to deck out those virtual worlds with certain aesthetics and stuff like that, we might start collecting props from here and there and artworks from here and there to present in our virtual worlds. And then we hang out with our other friends and they're all wearing their fancy bling virtual avatar stuff. Like, I can easily imagine it's going to be the same as when someone comes out to your house and says, oh, you know, what's that cool print on your wall? And then you're like, well, actually, that's this cool artist that I love, and let me tell you all about it. So I can imagine that whole situation will be easily simulated, and is already happening in certain virtual worlds.
I mean, so no one ever thought folks would line up for tennis shoes, SUTU, right?
Yeah.
I think the NFT is a lot like the sneaker culture, where folks are finding value in subgenres. I think sneakers are a huge subgenre, but now it's the main, sort of like the main deal for people. And there's whole exchanges created around that collectible culture, around sneaker culture or streetwear culture. So I think that you're right in that the digital collectibles and assets will have the type of importance in people's lives. I think especially younger people that are kind of born into a post-digital world where, yeah, it's fighting words or, you know, potential murder if a person does then go and make off with someone's digital assets, you know, whether they be art NFTs, whether they be my virtual, you know, Gucci belt and like slippers, whatever it is. If you're making off with my stuff, prepare to die. You know?
Yeah, but I think I suppose like because kind of now we're kind of entering into that conversation of like substance of work and what's you know what's important and what we should you know how much value we should put into it. I kind of start to imagine like, oh, you know, the different digital artworks that do have some like cultural value on another level, or like say for example, a big thing right now is like AR history lessons, like where you might go down to a street corner and you hold your phone up and then you can see back in time to what that place was. Or maybe you go to a monument that is in the physical location and you can see a digital layer, or maybe you just enter an empty park and then there is a digital monument there. There's kind of ways that we can use digital art to create new cultural value. And I feel like that, you know, it would be great if LACMA was to invest in those types of walks through our cities and stuff like that, and pay for these artists and then preserve those kinds of digital works. I can also see that tying in, like a big part of this talk today was to talk about sort of the audio side of this project that I've been working on. But like, you know, I'm in LA at the moment, and you know, Inglewood is down that way, and Lemare Park is down this way, and I was talking to an old jazz guy outside my cafe this morning when I went to pick up a coffee, and then he was telling me about these different neighborhoods and the different musicians that he's played with, just like not too far from where we were standing and stuff like that. And then I was also had been listening to like the Ready Player 2 book, and they talk about when they're walking through these virtual recreations of real neighborhoods and stuff, and they have like a needle drop. A needle drop is like when you drop the needle on a record, when you might cross the street at a certain point, then the soundtrack plays that's associated with that area culturally. In the same sense, like as we enter into like an AR future, you know, you might step across that street in real life and your AR glasses pick up exactly where you are with geotagging, and the artwork of that era might start to, or the graffiti of that era might cover all the walls and the soundtrack that's associated with it. You could really start to create an artwork that's associated with that whole point in time, but to that location and things like that. So I was just thinking about it this morning when I was talking to this old fella. I was like, oh, that would be cool.
It would be very cool, and brings me to, you know, we've been talking about audio reactive artwork, you know, just personally, at least for the last week or two. And it brings me to what you're doing. So it's not quite in that historical sense, but I do see, you know, a time where there will be epic places that used to be, I don't know, let's call it Wembley Stadium or whatever, Staples Centers, and there were epic concerts in at that time, and museums could sponsor that site, like augmented sponsor of that site. And when people walk past it, we can hear the epic Beyonce concert that happened there. Or, you know, if it's like, you know, in the UK, we could hear maybe when the Police played there, or Queen played there, you know, the last concert that Freddie Mercury did, or, you know, something like that. We can hear that soundtrack and see, you know, artwork related to that. Can you speak a little bit more about audio reactive artwork and your project that you're dropping with Deadmau5? Because this will be your first NFT and Deadmau5's first NFT, and it's a collaborative work, which is super interesting. And I'd love to hear more about how that came about, and not necessarily the meeting, but just like the development for you.
Yeah, so some friends that are some friends from Australia who run a company called Emanate. They are in partnership with Deadmau5's manager, and they sort of have been throwing around this idea of like finding new ways to you know, connect with audience of Deadmau5 and find new audiences, but also being present and on the cutting edge of these new scenes. So they reached out to me to create an artwork for one of his tracks. That was kind of where this conversation started. And yeah, so they sent me the track, and it was a fairly open brief. We wanted it to be audio reactive, and I was given like a sort of a more sporadic kind of track that was a bit more kind of chaotic to begin with. And I sort of had started playing around with some shaded design and stuff where I could select different frequencies of the sound and have animations reacting to those different frequencies. So like from a technical standpoint, that's one thing that's kind of popular right now, is just like using the spectrum of the sound to control different animated components in your animation, which is super fun. I'm seeing a lot of it, and we're getting a lot more control, and we can start to pinpoint like exact instruments or a range of frequencies and create those and kind of create like a visual signature to apply to each of those sonic sounds. That's super exciting. It's kind of creating a sense of synesthesia between the artwork and the music. That's kind of what we aim to do. But then like I was going down this kind of one area of development. It was like kind of creating all kind of glitchy stuff. But then there was licensing issues with that piece of music, and we kind of had to change. And then the next tune that I got was kind of a more sparse, ambient, Blade Runner-esque kind of intro to one of his songs. And then when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of was actually more my headspace of where I've been lately. Kind of marooned in my apartment, but in another planet, it feels like. So yeah, I had one other older artwork that I'd been messing around with, and I was like, oh, it kind of fits with that style. So I was like, oh, let me bring that artwork up that I'd been messing around with, and I started to remix it all up, and I had got his Deadmau5 logo, which is kind of like a iconic symbol of his kind of Deadmau5 brand, and I brought that in and started to add all of these other elements around it. It created like a whole little sci-fi world. And the track that I was given is called Saturn. It's kind of like the planet, and yeah, obviously Saturn is a gold planet and a gas giant. And I liked this. I'd been playing a lot with sort of volumetric fog and stuff like that. You know, these are all just drop in like digital terms, I guess. But yeah, so the whole design has like a golden kind of dense fog aesthetic and a futuristic new frontier sci-fi kind of vibe. We're actually going to, I think the plan is we're going to drop it on Friday about 2 p.m. I was planning to drop it today, but we're still got to just get a few little like details sorted out before it goes up there. But yeah, that'll come up on Super Rare. We're almost there.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's exciting. I think like, yeah, it's been good to think about. Obviously, like on the Super Rare platform, for example, you can only show a video. So when you're doing audio reactive stuff, because I work at like the Wave, for example, where we're doing live virtual concerts, we actually do those concerts in real time. And so a lot of the, we program into the shows a lot of real-time audio reactivity, because it's basically a video game that's set up to, where all the animations are set up to respond to the music in real time and stuff like that. So when you're, obviously when you're exporting out a animation, you kind of have to bake the audio reactivity into the animation. So it's not real time, but it's still audio reactive. So there's little hints of audio reactivity into it. But I really look forward to when the platforms evolve that we could do some sort of audio reactive real-time stuff, or maybe, you know, you scream into your mic on your browser and it reacts to your voice. I like this idea of participatory artworks and stuff like that. So I've been, even through this process, I've been thinking a lot more about kind of where I would like to see the future of these types of collaborations go. And yeah, like it's always awesome to have a cool soundtrack to work with as well. Like one of my favorite things is collaborating with musicians, or yeah, having that sort of palette of sound and trying to find like a visual aesthetic that meshes with it. That's why I love working in that sort of audio visual space, and why I'm working at the Wave at the moment as well. So
is the Wave planning to do a concert with Deadmau5?
Well, Deadmau5 has got his own thing going on with Unreal Engine.
Okay.
So yeah, that's already been announced. So I would just keep an eye out for that. That's in collaboration with Unreal. So, you know, I imagine it's going to be pretty hot. And yeah, you know, in the future, if he wants to do a show with the Wave, I'm sure it can be arranged. But yeah,
you were saying really quickly, you were talking about participatory artwork. You actually have a filter. Is it still offered on Instagram, or is it solely through Snapchat, where you actually scream and there's like spikes coming out the head, like Hellraiser?
Yeah. That's it. If you search Hellraiser on Snap, you should be able to find it.
Yeah,
I think it's up still, but yeah, like it's just a pretty simple one. It looks for your mouth opening. So when your mouth opens up, then it triggers this animation to happen. Yeah, and also it's like right down to the, depending on how open your mouth is, determines how much the spikes grow out of your head. So if you really, you're going to have very long spikes.
Wow, so the bigger your mouth, the longer.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had coded it to the distance between the top lip and the bottom lip. So that's the variable, yeah. But that's like the fun thing. You've got kind of a limited palette of sort of things to play with right now. So now we've got like body segmentation. There's pretty good machine learning for tracking the hands. They recently added like foot tracking. There's like recognition of the sky. So you can start to put things just happening in the sky. You can recognize if the hands are closed or open. So all of these things are pretty much, you know, this is going to call an event, and then you can determine what that event is, what's going to happen when we detect these sort of interactions. All of this stuff is going to become more and more sophisticated. Obviously, on other tools, there's things like voice recognition, same sort of systems that drive things like Siri, but using it in the context of art. It's super exciting what you can do with those types of things. And then like I was thinking this morning as well, like about, you know, I was playing around with a particle system. So you can attach you could attach a sound to a particle system, but then you fire it out and then it might collide with another particle, which also has another sound. And you can create like a domino effect, like ting, 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 ting. And then depending on how those particles, or maybe someone's moving their hands around and interacting, they can more or less create their own soundscape by pushing these things into one another, kind of like if you were to touch a wind chime or something. And once you sort of go down that rabbit hole of thought, you sort of begin to understand the capabilities of the technology or the software at the time, and then you can start to apply it to these different scenarios. And it's a fun kind of place to enter. With the Wave, we're thinking about that constantly. We're thinking about ways for bringing user input. You know, COVID, especially this year, has been so crazy for the amount of people at home and then wanting some sort of entertainment. So it's actually been a fantastic year for the Wave, for people to be able to tune in and like to be able to see their favorite artists playing in an exciting new format, and then also be able to type into the chat. And when you type in certain emojis, or if you type in keywords, you can spawn visual events to appear inside the concert. Like we did things like in the weekend show that we did a couple of months back, we had like, they could create fireworks just appearing. There was also voting moments, like they could vote if they wanted Abel to lick the frog or not. Of course, they would not say no. Like I can imagine everyone wants him to lick the frog, so it was pretty predictable what was going to happen there. But nevertheless, we can create these sort of minimal interactions, which is a little bit like Bandersnatch when Netflix did Bandersnatch. It allows you to have some sort of like very minimal gameplay, but it's another way to engage the audience, but also just to be able to participate when we can't be there in person, physically participate. We're trying to find ways to bring value to those experiences so that so people feel like they're getting more than just watching a pancake screen. Like we don't want to do like a 30-minute music video. It's not the point.
Yeah.
We want, and that when we did the John Legend show, I think one of the real novelties of that show, well, not the novelties, one of the beautiful things was actually seeing John in his mocap suit, you know, down in the corner of the YouTube screen. And then as he's moving, he's obviously controlling his avatar in real time. And people just love that. It's like, whoa, he's doing that. He is that little guy in the virtual world that's moving around and singing. And then we also had like a piano there on site, and he sat down and played the piano. And then of course, in the virtual world at the same time, in real time, he's playing the little virtual piano. So I think those types of things make it special. And then he was out in between songs. It was his voice, he's seeing people's messages come through, like people were making donations during that concert. And he could see the names of the people that were making donations because their names would appear because they had signed in, like they were making donations via YouTube. And so those donations were appearing inside the show, and he could see them, and he was doing little shout outs to people. And I think that was really important that he was so participatory, like in that whole process. Like he was really receptive and was like, oh, those are people donating right now. And the donations were going to his charity. So, I mean, he was stoked. We raised about $350,000.
What?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
What? See, this is what I was saying. I was literally saying this yesterday on Emanate's panel with Jonathan Palmer from BMG. I'm like, you know what? The talent, right? The artist has to participate. They have to, you know, be there with their fans, because their fans in real time want to be there with that person. And if they have like a certain percentage of super fans, those super fans should be in on getting something, you know, other than, you know, an opportunity to buy more stuff or another t-shirt. Like it needs to feel, they need to see that reaction that they are directly, I don't want to say responsible, but that they have a direct effect on that person that they idolize, or the person that they're a super fan for. And what I loved about John Legend is from the beginning, I love that he said, hey, I'm here in my motion capture suit and I'm just doing my thing. And for people who didn't know what motion capture was, like maybe little kids that are watching him, that may have planted a seed in someone and actually started their entire trajectory now on how they live their life, what they do. Like there's someone out there that's like, I got interested in XR and, you know, like motion capture, motion graphics, because when I was a kid, I saw John Legend perform with the Wave in a all black motion capture suit. He said, I'm in my motion capture suit. I'm sitting here at my piano. I'm really doing these things. And now you can see it's corresponding with my avatar. Like that moment was pretty, in my mind, was pretty historic for the space, right? Especially in a COVID time, because Hollywood makes everything very fantastical. You don't really get to see behind the scenes and how things are made. I mean, you do now, it's a little bit different, but you know, just historically and traditionally, you don't. And so what I love about what the Wave did and John Legend did, he's like, listen, you guys are my family too. You're right here behind the scenes with me. You get to see how we're making this and what we're doing, and then how we're presenting it so that it looks polished and looks great and looks entertaining for you guys. And I think as a result, they were like, heck yeah. First of all, we love John Legend. Secondly, he's raising money for something great. And like third, this is a free concert where we actually get to see the making of and the concert kind of at the same time. I thought that was really, really rad. And then how you had the videos in the beginning showing his life, his, you know, what he's about. Just love that. You guys did a really great job on that concert.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I just messaged my friend on the Wave Slack to check the numbers on John Legend, because I think the 350,000 was raised through the weekend show.
Wow.
But one of them raised that much, and the other one raised at least 100,000. So it's like, it's gone to a charity. It's a good thing. It was like everyone at the Wave office was just like, whoa, like was not ready for that. But definitely when you're sort of in the gravity of like these sort of mega stars like John Legend and The Weeknd, it gives it that extra oomph. But it's really important, like from a tech perspective, that you're there with the infrastructure to be able to make sure that that goes down sweet, and you make it as easy as possible to be able for people to impulsively want to get involved. And I remember like even like everyone on the Wave Slack, as we were watching it and chatting, we had a Zoom going on the side as well, and people were like, oh shit, I'm going to donate just so I can see my name pop up, whatever, you know, like people getting into it. And it was like, it created some momentum. And like there was some like people, I remember like seeing someone drop like $1,000, and I was like, whoa, someone's just dropped $1,000. That's wild. But you know, it was also, obviously it's been such a crazy.
John Legend before that time?
Say again?
Did you not know John Legend before that time?
No, I had heard John Legend's music.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we just didn't know how successful a charity ran at a virtual concert was going to be, because like we just hadn't done it before. So it was great to see, but also like it was such an important moment, everything that had gone down this year. And people needed that release. Like you said, John, you know, his songs are all about love, and sort of his little video intro was giving back to the nurses, was about being, you know, respecting your families and things like that during this crazy time and this crazy year that it's been. So it was kind of an awesome release, and people were, you know, joyously participating in this thing. And he was pretty aware of that moment, I think. So that's what made it really good. And like also around that time, like Lindsay Sterling is another one who's like really participatory in her live shows. She plays like the viola.
Oh, the viola.
Yeah, and but she's like she raised a ton of money as well for her show, and she was just so good with her audience. Like she knows how committed her audience is, and she tries to do so much to give back to her fans and stuff. And she was just blown away, and she was crying her eyes out, and just at the response from her audience to her show and stuff like that. And everyone at the wave office was crying their eyes out as well, I'm sure, like, because it was like such an emotional sort of moment that was happening. But just to see that she was able to create this moment for everyone tuning in was pretty wild. Yeah.
Say that COVID has brought us the opportunity to look at things with a different lens. I mean, it isn't ideal to go to live shows on your phone or on your computer, right? You want to be at the show, but at the same time, based on everything you've described, it would appear to me that that closeness, that exhilaration, you know, we have that, and we're feeling that with the show. We're, even if it's on the screen, you know, we still have that emotion and that excitement. We're still able to do something and feel something really impactful. Do you think for at least the COVID times, this is the future of live shows and touring and concerts?
Well, I think COVID created a situation where people were willing to try new things, which is super important. I think there's a huge audience out there that just can't even get to physical shows. Like there's the people, the accessibility crowd, you know, finally can experience a show where they might not have physically been able to get there before. There's people looking after their families at home or something like that. You know, there's a whole bunch of circumstances that might prevent people from getting into the shows, or maybe there's just like introverted people that don't like being in those physical, really in your face kind of spaces. So it's important to just keep in mind like this broader spectrum of humanity that and space that we share, and you know, giving the artists platforms to be able to connect with all their diverse members of their fans. It's really just another way for them to go about it, where when physical concerts may not be the way. And in terms of like how long COVID's going to last and when bands will start touring together, I mean, it's really dependent on countries getting their shit together, really, from a health standpoint. And in the meantime, we can just keep chipping away and making sure we can provide some cool experiences. But I think for us, sort of digital creators that are finding audiences and stuff through presenting our work in these different ways, like I said before, people at home have the time, they're sitting there, they're exploring, they're on their phones, they're on their laptops, they're experimenting a bit more. So it's cool to put stuff in front of them, and you know, that's how you build an audience for a new medium.
I love that you said that, and I love that you brought in particular, that you brought in the other folks. Shout out to all of the people who feel invisible, who feel like they can't get to a concert because of their, you know, introvertedness, or their, you know, they're not wanting to be around big crowds, and who got a full-on personal concert by John Legend, you know, thanks to the Wave and, you know, the various teams that were present, and all the people that, you know, are differently abled, that, you know, it doesn't allow them to get to the concerts, or people who have different, you know, economic circumstances. I love that you brought that up. And that's actually one of the reasons why I love you so much. I think that you are very conscientious. You're very, you know, future leaning in a way that's optimistic, but of course, really realistic. You're a rad dude, and I'm glad you did this. I'm glad that people got to see, you know, what I see in you, and got to hear your story, got to, you know, see what you're up to. It is like 4:15ish. I did tell you it would be an hour. I could talk to you about 2-3 more hours, but I do want to respect that time I've given you for ending. Is there anything that you want to say? Can we see the Deadmau5 SUTU collab? Is that possible?
Like a little sneak preview.
Yeah, just a sneak preview. It doesn't have to be the whole thing.
Let's see. Let's see here. All right, I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, hold on. Let me make sure you've got, yeah, you've got access. Go for it.
And I'll just go to desktop. That'll be. Oh, I got to open system preferences. Is it going to make me? You know what? I can't. It's saying if I allow my security preferences turn on like screen sharing, it will quit the call.
Oh, okay.
So just stay tuned, people. You'll check it out on Friday. And I have to mention also, actually, like the guys that that I'm doing this project and brought this project to me at Emanate are
shout out to Emanate. Shout out to Sean and Jimmy. They're great dudes.
Yeah, and they're so coinciding with this project will also be some collectible cards that utilize this artwork in some fashion. And those will be coming out on wax on December 16th. So if you got here via Twitter, or if you look me up on Twitter, you'll see that I shared a tweet from those guys. So there's another opportunity to get an NFT if you missed out on the super rare one.
So is it a similar artwork or the same artwork? I didn't understand.
It's a variation. Yeah.
Okay.
So
can you show us one of those? Can we see anything?
I can't show you one of those either. I'm just trying to think how I can show you.
Your security preferences are such that you don't want anybody peeking in.
No, it's the Zoom thing. I can't like share my screen because I have to quit the Zoom call to be able to share my screen.
That's super
because
weird.
I haven't. It's just like with the new Apple update, they make you go into the security preferences and you have to nominate Zoom, blah blah blah, to be able to share your screen.
I'm still using my computer from like 2014, so I don't know anything about that. I refuse all the updates.
Sure.
I keep clicking tomorrow. When shall we remind you? Tomorrow.
Yeah, and then it just won't work, and then that's how they get you. It's just like, well, you know what? Fuck you. Nothing's gonna work for you anymore.
I'm nearing that point. Trying to kill my computer, so we're
and then they make you download like 30 gigs of the last updates for 6 years or whatever.
Exactly.
Like you got to update 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, almost there. Come on.
I've run out
anyway, I got to get back to work as well. I can hear on the Slack they're all missing me.
Oh, good.
I can hear the little chirps going on.
Thank you.
But yeah,
really appreciate your time, and welcome to the creative crypto community, man. Welcome you and Deadmau5 to the creative crypto community. Please keep us abreast of what's going on with you, and drop your socials. It's SUTU Eats Flies. Any underscores or dots?
I think there is, like SUTU Eats Flies on Instagram, and on Twitter it's oh gosh, yeah, SUTU_eats_flies. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
I don't know why. I need SUTU only, and that would be so much easier. Yeah. Anyway, one day.
I'll get in touch with Jack Dorsey from Twitter and make that happen for you straight away.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Man. Lots of love, SUTU. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Yes. Well, guys, that was our last interview of the day. Thanks so much for hanging on with us. We've really enjoyed everyone that came through today. Thank you for the community for supporting us. Thank you, everyone, for all the kind DMs and emails and feedback we're getting around what we're doing. Yeah, that's it. I'm Lady Phoenix, my co-host Coldy and I. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 3. Please check out our Twitter at Crypto Art Advisor or at Coldy for the updates. This is AS Universe and Universe Contemporary and Coldy production. Catch you tomorrow.